Hello, everyone, and welcome into Coach Goes Back to College. This is week number 6, I believe, episode 7 now at this point in time. So glad that you're here. First of all, welcome into the Sports Affiliation channel. Welcome into Coach Goes Back to College. If you have not done so already, be sure to subscribe over at the Sports Affiliation YouTube channel, which you're probably watching this on if you're watching this video, but you could be watching on Twitter or another platform as well. So definitely be sure to check out the YouTube channel over there. Like, comment, and subscribe if you do appreciate these videos as they do come out. Also, be sure to check out my own personal YouTube channel at Coach Craig Sports. Do a lot of DFS work over there, whether it is NFL, NBA, XFL, USFL, CFL, MLB, which just finished up at this point in time. Definitely would appreciate you checking that out as well. If you haven't joined me before, this is kind of how I structure this video. We'll talk about one under-the-radar prospect that is playing in a game this week. We'll talk about my personal game of the week, or, a game that really stands out. Some weeks we'll have a couple more, just if there's a lot of good games out there. And then we'll go over to my favorite prop of the week. This week, we're going to flip up the order just a little bit. We'll talk about the prospect to know, and then we're going to go to the prop of the week just because our prospect to know this week is Luther Burden, wide receiver from Missouri, and he's actually going to be involved in one of our props for this week. We're going to start off talking about our prospect of the week in Luther Burden, the wide receiver for Missouri. He is a true sophomore wide receiver, coming in at 5'11", 208 pounds. Pretty good size for a wide receiver in terms of weight, but he's kind of a physical freak. He is a former 5-star recruit. He was the number 2 wide receiver recruit in his class, so not really like a guy that's completely under the radar. We kind of known who he was. But, going to Missouri, not the biggest football school, so you're not too worried about them, especially in the SEC where they're typically not a powerhouse by any means. But they are off to a 5-0 start, so they have played pretty well. They go against LSU this week. Should be a pretty interesting game there. But for Luther Burden, like I said, 5'11", 208 pounds. He is projected to run in the mid-4.4s in terms of speed. A guy that's really good after the catch, and that's kind of been his calling card so far this season. And when we get over to the prop for this week, the other guy that we'll be pairing him up with is a guy that is incredible after the catch as well. So taking a look at Luther Burden a little bit more in depth. So last year as a true freshman, his 2022 stats, he played in 13 games, had 45 receptions, 375 yards, and 6 receiving touchdowns. Also had 18 carries on the ground and 88 yards and 2 rushing touchdowns. So pretty interesting there. He's going to be a very versatile piece. It'll be interesting to see ultimately where he goes and probably next year's draft, because he'll probably ultimately declare after his 3rd season, which sounds like it'll probably be at Missouri once again. So far in 2023, he's played 5 games in total. He's got 43 receptions, 2 less than he had last year, almost doubled his yardage at 644. So he's just a little bit shy of doubling that yardage from last season. And then he's got 5 touchdowns already. But kind of the one weird thing with him this year is only 1 carry on the ground for 2 yards. So he hasn't been quite as involved in the running game as he was as a true freshman. But a very versatile piece that you can use in offense a lot of different ways. Probably best working out of the slot at the NFL level. I think he's played a little bit more there this year. Last season, they did have an upperclassman that did ultimately play in the slot and kind of led the team in targets. I cannot remember his name for the life of me at this point in time, but he did ultimately end up transferring away for, I believe, his final season of college football. So Luther Burden kind of moved into that role and has really flourished. Like I said, a guy that's got good size, good speed. It doesn't quite have the height that you would look for from a prototypical wide receiver, but 5'11" still isn't bad for the modern game, and a guy that is very much involved in terms of yards after catch, being able to run away from guys, break tackles, and everything else like that. So pretty interesting prospect there. Probably built more like a running back than a wide receiver, but is going to be a very interesting asset, for Devy managers, for dynasty managers in the future as well. But now that we talked through Luther Burden, like I said, I want to go over prop of the week just because I'm doing a combo prop this week, and it's going to include Luther Burden. Originally, when I was looking at the prop of the weeks, I had his receiving yards over, but it was like 104.5. It's since been boosted up to like 108.5, 110.5, just depending on the site that you're on. So just keep that in mind. So we are going to get over to the prop of the week. We'll talk about last week's prop real briefly. So season date record, we got 3-3. Obviously, week 1 was a hook. Second week, Luke McCaffrey kind of let us down. We had 3 straight wins. And then Anthony Gold looked like a really good play last week. He had hit the over all 3 times in the season so far, 6 out of 10 times. Last season only had to get 41 receiving yards. Unfortunately, only ended up with 22 receiving yards. I believe it was Silas Bolden, the other wide receiver, had the big game there, so a little bit unfortunate there. But our prop of the week this week is going to be Luther Burden plus Malik Neighbors over receiving yards. The line on ParlayPlay is 207.5 yards. The line on PrizePicks is 208.5 yards. So doing a combination prop here. And when we're talking about both of these guys, we talked a little bit about Luther Burden already. Malik Neighbors is going to be a top draft pick in this year's draft class coming up as well. He's another guy that is incredibly good in terms of yard after catch. Two of the best yards after catch guys in the entire college football landscape this season. So definitely have a lot of interest in them. Luther Burden averaging almost 129 receiving yards per game. Malik Neighbors averaging 125 receiving yards per game. You combine that together, should be a pretty easy over in this one. And then you look at the defenses they're going against. LSU's defense is allowing 286 passing yards per game in 2023, which is one of the worst in all of college football. And then you have Missouri on the other side. They're allowing almost 265 passing yards per game, which is like 101st in college football. So both teams are on the very bottom of the spectrum there. Going to be a pretty good, hopefully competitive game as well, kind of back and forth there. Turns in a little bit of shootout. These guys can make plays happen on their own if they need to, but at the same time, do very much like this over in terms of the yards, whether you're playing on ParlayPlay or PrizePicks. And with that being said, I'll have my personal promo codes down in the description below for ParlayPlay and PrizePicks. So if you want to check that out, if you're brand new to them, first time deposit helps you guys out a little bit, helps me out a little bit on the side. Also, be sure to check out the TSA sponsors themselves, Better Vision. If you're an Apple user, be sure to check out their app. A lot of different books that you can look at. So maybe you want to look at somebody for whether it's Luther Burden or Malik Neighbors or somebody else for college football, definitely be sure to check that out as well. Sounds like they should have an Android app coming out pretty soon. And then the Fantasy Football Advice Forum, be sure to check out their app. That's more geared towards the NFL side, but definitely be sure to check that out as well. So that's kind of what we do have for the prop of the week. We'll get moved over to the game of the week, which is going to be a very historic rivalry. And with that being said, we have the historic rivalry of Oklahoma and Texas, formerly known as the Red River Shootout. Technically, it's called the Red River Rivalry because, politics at this point in time. This series started in 1900. There has been 118 games played in total. Texas leads the series, 65 wins, 50 losses, and 3 ties over that time span. When I made this slide, Texas was 6.5-point home favorites. It's going to vary book to book, but I believe it's closer to 5 points at this point in time, over under about 60 points, 60.5. Not really too interested in betting either of those lines, but I think it's going to be a very interesting game, one that I want to watch. Personally, we got 2 good quarterbacks here in Dillon Gabriel, Quinn Ewers, 2 very good teams, 2 very good talents out there, so it should be for a pretty interesting game. This is a pretty historic rivalry. Unfortunately, last year we saw Texas win like 49-0, but mainly because Dillon Gabriel did not play in the game. Oklahoma really ran like a wildcat quarterback pretty much most of the game, so was not a good one to watch whatsoever. But these teams have a lot of blood in the water. That's why the river is red. So definitely be sure to check it out. You can watch this game at 11 a.m. Central Time, noon Eastern Time on ABC. Should be a pretty good one to watch once again. Definitely looking forward to it and seeing which team comes out on top, because at this point in time, both these teams are 5-0, and it's going to make a very, very big distinction for the Big 12 moving forward. But with that being said, that's pretty much what I do have in terms of Coach Goes Back to College for week number 6. Like to keep this video pretty concise, short, kind of do the quick hitters with our prospect of the week, the prop of the week, and the game of the week. Hopefully you guys all enjoyed. If you want to talk any college football whatsoever, be sure to drop it down in the comments or reach out to me on Twitter at Coach Craig Sport. I'd be more than happy to help you out over there, have a discussion, anything else like that. Definitely interested in college football for week number 6. Things are getting pretty interesting at this point in time. We kind of figuring out which teams are contenders, which teams are pretenders. It's going to be a very, very interesting college football season with a lot of talent out there overall. But with that being said, that's pretty much what I do have at this point in time. Definitely do appreciate each and every one of you watching this video. Definitely means a lot to myself, means a lot to the rest of the Sports Affiliation channel as well. Be sure to check out all the other shows on the Sports Affiliation channel. Make sure that you are subscribed, turn on those notifications, hit that like button so you never miss a beat. Also appreciate any comments on my video or any of the other videos or stream on the channel. Also be sure to check out the Twitter Spaces and my own personal channel, Coach Craig Sports, on YouTube as well for all your DFS content. But with that being said, all that I have at this point in time, definitely do appreciate each and every one of you tuning in once again. Hopefully each and every one of you have a great rest of your day and a pretty good weekend overall, and have some good luck in college football for week number 6, whether you're betting, watching a team, watching a specific player, or anything else.